I'm going to say it right now. The most offensive brand names, whatever you want to do, Tesla, American Eagle, come advertise with us. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Hold on,
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the July 30th, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. Okay, I got to start with this. Note to the Rams. May I suggest American Eagle jeans being added to your list of sponsors? Give them a banner, give them something, give them anything, because that's the kind of sponsorship you need to reach the crowd that's out in the valleys, the San Gabriel Valley, even the San Fernando Valley. That's the crowd you want. The crowd that's complaining is the crowd that's influenced by Beverly Hills, Bel Air, and Brentwood. American Eagle jeans. I don't even find Sydney Sweeney. I think there's a lot hotter chicks through the years than her, and I didn't think she looked super great. But the idea that she upset so many people with those jeans, American Eagle, I'll be your show. You could come and sponsor us, and you could give me less than you give everybody else. But I thought that was marvelous. So if anybody out there can suggest to me, I was thinking Tesla, but my wife really, it's not that she's against Elon, but she really hates the way those Tesla trucks look. But I'll be a platform for Tesla. Somebody out there who's offensive, right? Who's really offensive, and I think it would be marvelous to have offensive sponsors with us, like American Eagle. I thought that was hilarious. Okay, Ram stuff as we go forward here. A lot of little stuff just leaking out. No major news, nothing too big. But I did come around this quote. I don't know if it was Stu Jackson. Somebody put this quote out there from Kevin Dotson. It was on Twitter or X. And this speaks to negotiations when you're talking about Kyren Williams. At least for me, it does. And Kevin Dotson is quoted as saying, "The team, man, I've never been in a place where it feels so close to college in the way of camaraderie of the team. I really love this." Yeah, it was Stu Jackson. "I really love this, like really love it. The city, I love the weather, I love the people, I love my team, I love my teammates, I love the O-line. It feels good just to be here. So I'm just like, why not give all my energy and give it my whole and just try the best for the guy next to me. The guy across from me, I want to work for them." And I thought that was kind of cool. It shows the character the Rams bring in to the locker room. It also shows that, they extended this guy. He's good for another 2 years. And so when you see the Rams and there's all these discussions about extending Kyren Williams, not extending Kyren Williams, the Rams have already built this reputation that they are a first-class organization. They're going to take care of their players, but they're not going to hurt the team. That was the whole pushback I had against Terrence Ferguson if he was having a major fool in his life, telling him to play hardball with the Rams. This is an organization that takes care of its players. That's a happy player there in Kevin Dotson. On the flip side of comments, one of the things you learn by watching the Rams is how to say nothing in 97 words. You got to use 97 words to say nothing. And I think it goes like this. I think the defense has had 2 really good days. I thought the offense responded better. The caliber of just competitiveness on both sides and just the quality of football felt like it was a notch up. That's what we're striving to do, to be able to positively push one another. It's not necessarily about winning the drill, but it's, are we having good quality football snap in and snap out, minimizing some of the mistakes and playing with the techniques and fundamentals we want. I thought today was a good step in the right direction. Sean McVay. Welcome to your next senator from the state of California, maybe the next vice president, maybe the next president. That is a whole lot of nothing, right? That is a whole lot of nothing. And he is the master at it, right? He is the absolute master at it. There were times like, we'd sit there. I don't know if Steve Ramirez is with us yet, and I'll check the comment box here. You hold your phone up here or your old push button micro cassette recorder, and you're recording a coach, and this coach, right? And this coach is going to say the same thing over and over again, but you feel like you got to get a quote into your story. I know towards the end of my run at Mid-Valley Sports, I stopped getting quotes from coaches. If I really needed something, I could call them up or text them. But the whole next man up, we just got to play good football. We got to protect the ball. They give you a whole lot of words and literally say nothing. And McVay is the master at that. So that was fun looking at some of those quotes. Tim Burns, Joe must be watching TV. No, I wasn't watching TV. I saw some TV this morning with Danny Parkins. I was hoping they fixed his teeth. He didn't. But no, I wasn't watching any TV, Mr. Burns. Let's see. Micah Gutierrez, better American Eagle than Levi's. Who does Levi's? Is that Beyonce? Is that Beyonce that does that? I've never been to American Eagle. I've never purchased anything from American Eagle. Is it just a clothing store? I don't know, but it's got a whole bunch of people really mad, and the spiteful, mean side of me is very much like, yeah, let's continue to add spite to the fire. So there we go. Let's see. Tim Burns, Devontae throwing mad shade at Raiders, saying players were miserable playing there. Well, yeah. I mean, look at the dirty they did to Derek Carr, right? Look at the dirty they did to Derek Carr. Devontae Adams should have had his radar up before he went, but he didn't. And I think everyone's just happy to be out of there. I do think Pete Carroll, Joe Spytek are the right kind of influences to have in the room for Mark Davis. And things are going to change there in Las Vegas. Tim Burns, Sydney Sweeney is the kind of girl that makes average guys think they have a shot. And, of course, there are certain assets to consider. Okay. All right. Now, she's not ugly. I'm not saying in any way she's ugly, but I think some of her predecessors, she's not Kathy Ireland, right? I'm thinking of the days when I was single. I don't think she's Paulina Parachikova, the one that married Rick Ocasek, right? Talk about looks don't count for much, but there goes your proof, right? You got Rick Ocasek. In any other world where he's not Rick Ocasek, he ain't marrying Paulina, but he did. So there you go. Micah Gutierrez, Levi's, the 49ers sponsor. Oh, there you go. Absolutely. My bad. I need to be a little more aware there, Mr. Gutierrez. Okay. ESG, they were calling Devontae a diva for wanting to get out of Oakland. He is I know it was Las Vegas before somebody jumps in and corrects, but he can be a diva receiver. He's that good. He's one that has kind of earned it. He's not Brandon Ayuk, who really hasn't earned that status, right? He's not a lot of guys you see in this league that talk a lot of neck, but don't back it up. But someone should have been talking to him, right? Saying, hey, I know you're going to go back and play with your guy, Derek, but man, be careful. It's the Raiders. He's just got to be so happy he's out of there. He was so desperate to get out of there, he decided to go to the Jets, right? And the Jets just put him in the street. Amazing. Mike Gutierrez, it looks like the defensive line has been having a great training camp, dare I say. Verse has been blowing up practices like AD. We're going to talk a little bit about that defensive line. I saw some things there that kind of jive with some things we were talking about last year. And Tim Burns is Beyonce is a Levi's girl ad. Okay, so we got it. Okay, again, talking about the injuries, nothing to get worked up about. Everyone wants to get worked up about it. I think there are a lot of Munchausens in the KBM and a lot of Munchausens in the Ram media that are just looking for anything to glom onto, kind of like the Weather Channel and other channels that were eagerly salivating for the water to go out in Hawaii and come back in huge waves and all that kind of stuff. Forbes and Curl, their injuries, their dings, they don't seem serious. You can tell by the Rams' reactions. These are things they're just being careful with. That's great. Curl's a veteran. I don't need him out there too much. I just need him to be in shape. Forbes was playing well, and I like him out there because then I get to talk trash the whole time. So not worried about this. Still not worried about Matthew Stafford, and so we'll go from there. Multiple platforms, and a lot of you guys I've heard in other places are gushing over Nate Landman, right? And that's great. I think I said, he was a step up from Roseboom. Roseboom played really well last year. I thought Roseboom played last year better than at any time. I never thought he was capable of it. He was a career special teamer, that great mentality that the Rams get out of undrafted free agents. And they played really well, but it was the ceiling. It was as far as he could go. Rams let him walk, and they took a step up with Landman. And I said it was a step up, but I might be wrong. Judging by what people are saying and some of the stuff I've seen is maybe he's several steps up from Christian Roseboom. And that's exciting to see. A more experienced Omar Spates and a guy playing at not Roseboom level, but above a Roseboom level. Yeah, that's kind of exciting. And that adds a whole new dimension to the Rams defense when they're talking about weaknesses, because I think the Munchausens out there are constantly looking for weaknesses. Let's see what else we got here real quick. Steve Ramirez chimes in. When I was at practice, I couldn't believe how big Verse looked. Just a monster man among boys. Yeah, I'd like to see that personally. I think I've mentioned here that the biggest guy I ever stood next to was Ndamukong Suh. I mean, he was just a monster, right? And I was 40 pounds heavier at the time. He was just huge, and of course, incredible shape. And game over, helmet off, sweating with his guys and around them. Nice guy. We know what it's like when he puts that helmet on. He's a beast. But yeah, that would be kind of cool to see Verse. And like Mr. Burns said, and some others have said, he's really tearing it up. Everyone's speaking really well of him. This is, again, reasons to be excited. But we talked about Landman being a step up from Christian Roseboom. Speaking of step-ups, I thought this was really interesting because we talked about him last year. He had good lateral last year, and he got serious snaps. Was Tyler Davis out of Clemson, 6th-round pick, right? And what was he a great player? No. Is he Poona Ford? No. Was he even Bobby Brown? I don't know. A little more versatile than Bobby Brown because you could see him really go lateral and get out on the edge a little bit as the play drifted that way. But he got a lot of snaps last year as a 6th-rounder. And the interesting thing about Tyler Davis was in an interview, he had his name dropped by Sean McVay. And and I think we all know, is that when McVay drops a name, he's really, really happy. It would be like someone asks McVay a question, hey, man, what kind of job do you think Joe Terosian does doing RamView? And then McVay goes, oh, yeah, Joe's good. But have you seen Tim Burns? Have you seen Steve Ramirez? Have you seen ESG? Have you seen Micah? Have you seen those guys? Have you seen Bill from Philly? And he drops in those other names, even when he's asked it. He drops them in indirectly after he's been asked a direct question. And Tyler Davis was a name he dropped. And I thought Tyler Davis was very serviceable last year. He's not going to be a starter, but it just gives you really good confidence in terms of the rotation. We understand Fisk, Ford, Turner are the guys. But you add Davis and a lot of excitement about Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State. And yeah, it is exciting. And if Poona Ford plays a few steps better than Bobby Brown, yeah, everything gets better, right? Everything becomes that much more exciting. Let's see. Mikey Gutierrez, unrelated to the Rams, but I had a lovely time watching the Padres at Petco Park last night. Are you sticking it to me about the Mets? Is that what you're doing, Micah? Are you sticking it to me about the Mets? Be careful about sticking it to me about the Mets. Tribe, Joe, Forbes is practicing with the first team on defense. My gut says Darius and him will be the starting corners. It very well could be. What I just like about all that, I think Forbes has the opportunity to be the standout number one guy, but I like the idea of them playing multiple snaps. If everyone plays about 500 snaps, right? Ford maybe plays more. Kobe Durant needs to play more because he really needs that next contract. Darius Williams at 32, we want him playing, 500 to 700 snaps, right? We want him sharing time. Akilla Witherspoon, this is probably the drum beat that I always make. We don't want him playing over 700 snaps or more because he's a guy that can break down. He's a guy that is good for half a season and stuff. So I'm good with it. I'm good with whatever you say there, Tribe. I like the Rams cornerback room, and again, the KBM doesn't get it. So Micah Gutierrez talking about the Mets. I plead the fifth. All right, Micah, there you go. All right, real quick here. Former Ram. Let's see here. Yes.
They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
One-time 6th round steal of the draft. We have a tendency in Rams circles to say, "Oh, this guy's the steal of the draft. This guy's the steal of the draft. This guy could be a steal of the draft." And one of those guys, while there's been some hits, obviously Puka, one-time steal of the draft, Zach Evans, running back. Major high school star, bounced around in college. He was a 6th round pick of the Rams in 2023. He has retired from the NFL. He made 10 appearances for the Rams, largely special teams, had a few carries, and then got cut last year at the end of camp, ended up on the Jets practice squad. He has retired from the NFL after 2 seasons. And, you wonder what that is. You always got to get in your head. Steve knows, because we covered the same type of stuff, is that kid who is 5-star, goes to college and he plays well, but it doesn't work out, gets to the NFL, and there's still expectations for him, and it just doesn't happen. My feeling with Zach Evans was if he could have played pass pro, he could have offered pass protection at any kind of a competent level, he might have stayed on the team because he's incredibly athletic. But I just look at Zach Evans the way I look at a lot of these guys that the Rams move on from. And I know Sonny Michel retired, but they're the guys that keep Ronnie Rivers sticking around, right? Ronnie Rivers puts another scalp on his wall. It's going to be tough for him this year, but it's going to be interesting to see. But Zach Evans has retired from the NFL. Interesting. Hey, man, this baseball talk. What are you doing, Mr. Burns? Nick Kurtz, baby. 19 total bases, 4 homers. Just have to relieve it one more time. He's on my fantasy team. He scored me 33 points that night. Let's see here. ESG, from what I hear, I think we have our toilet clogger in Ford. Yes, I think so too. I'm just hearing positive things. Of course, I'm not at camp. They showed him playing a little slap around with Alaric Jackson, and so that's always really, really good. Tim Burns very excited what ESG has to say. Mike Gutierrez, speaking of the quarterback room, Asante Samuel Jr. is still available, and I don't think the Rams have any interest. Somebody goes down, he may get a call, but it's interesting to think that guy who's still relatively young, that no one has given him a call. And there are teams that need experienced corners. No one has given him a call. To me, it kind of tells me maybe he's a pain in the neck, right? Because it's certainly not age. And he can get up and down the field. All right, I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 20 years. Still am. I contribute to Mid-Valley Sports, but I'm not necessarily part of the show over there. The guys that I started with over there, Tim Peterson, Dwayne Barker, they've been going to Chargers camp and talking about Chargers camp. You can see a lot of that at midvalleysports.com. You can find RamView there and other content provided by Mr. Burns and others at midvalleysports.com. I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and their great support. I'm excited I get to do RamView, and I write books. Those are the 2 things I do in my side hustle. You can find my books on Amazon. Just type in Joe Terosian and buy a book. There you go. I got 3 football novels there, 2 high school, 1 book about the Rams came out last September called Game Day in the RamCave. And we'd love for you to purchase that and, hey, help us out. This all supports me. My day job as I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can follow us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. And if you have any questions, you can ask me again about that stuff. And then check us out on our podcast from the RamCave. we're on and RamView, we're on iHeart, and we're on Spotify. We you know, we're pretty small there. We have much more of an influence here at YouTube, but check us out if you can. All right, let's see where we're at. Mr. Powers from Irvine has joined us. Regarding Evans, so much talent out there, had high hopes for him. Running backs are plentiful. Yeah, Mr. Power. And you got to do the stuff, right? You got to do the stuff. Everyone's excited about Jarquez Hunter. I'm kind of excited too. But if you can't block, you're not playing for McVay, right? Kyron Williams is a fifth rounder. He blocks, right? Blake Corum got on the field. He played for Harbaugh. He can block. And we're going to find out at what level Jarquez Hunter. I think they saw enough in Jarquez to draft him, but we're going to find out. And Ronnie Rivers could do some work too, and that's why he's still on this roster. He's like the lingering cold. He's like long COVID. He doesn't go away, right? But Evans, there was a lot of talent there. I believe you. Yes, there was, and it just didn't work out. Tribe, great show, Joe, as always. Tribe, thank you so much. You're very encouraging. I know there are other guys out there, so I appreciate any time you guys click on. I have not gone a lot of the technology route. I don't have a lot of graphics and everything. I think the heart of this show, this version of the show, is rapping with you guys, throwing stuff out there and hearing your thoughts. So you guys make the show great, and you build up my ego and everything. So I do appreciate it. Neil Gonzalez makes it in. What do you think of the Rams depth chart? I think it could be second to none. What's really funny about that? I've always heard other people say, like, oh, they really like the 49ers roster. They really like the Eagles roster. I have never heard anybody say they really like the Rams roster, meaning the depth of the roster. And when you look at it, right? Okay, the running back room, depth. Quarterback room, depth. Wide receiver, depth. Tight end, depth. Interior offensive line, depth. And I'm going to add this, the tackles. If Alaric Jackson, who's back on the field, participating, and then you got a DJ Humphries on the roster and a Quisenberry, and we're going to find out if Quisenberry makes this team, a developing Warren McClendon who keeps getting his name dropped by McVay, you got depth at tackle now. So the offense has depth, right? And then I look at the safeties, I see depth. I look at the corners, I see depth. I'm looking at the linebackers, and it's a little pie in the sky right now because we haven't seen Landman and Spates work together. We haven't seen them knock heads against the Texans. But there's more depth there now than there was last year. And then you look at the edge. I think we're very happy about the edge. And you throw with that in there, you're starting Fisk, Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, and then you're looking at Tank Davis, Ty Hamilton, and a guy that I hope makes the roster is DeJuan Johnson, the Mr. Irrelevant from 2023. I hope he makes the roster, and he's given the Rams clicks, right? And so I see a really good roster. I do. I see a really good roster that unless it's the 2022 offensive line chainsaw massacre, which was unprecedented in the Super Bowl era. When you're going off the street to sign Jeremiah Colon and Matt Skura off the Home Depot line, you're in trouble, right? But this is a roster that's built that can sustain and allow players to miss games. If Matthew Stafford missed 3 or 4 games, we don't want it to happen, but Jimmy G has the capability of getting this team through 3 or 4 games before he gets hurt, right? And so not everything falls apart with just one player. Now, Super Bowl hopes can change. Jimmy G, to me, takes us out of the Super Bowl bubble to win it. Could things happen and everything go? NFC title game, reach that game? Absolutely. Could they reach the Super Bowl? Yeah, but we would understand the limitations. But when you got Matthew Stafford, I got to tell you, when the Rams played the Vikings in the playoffs last year, I wasn't doubting. When the Rams went to Philly and we knew what the weather was and we saw the weather, boy, you just saw that. And as long as they were within a fighter's chance, a puncher's chance, they were right there. And I think a quarterback that, that wasn't Jim Everett, that wasn't Jared Goff, That wasn't Sam Bradford. I'm going to omit from bringing down Kurt Warner any. And I don't want to talk about Bulger because Bulger didn't have enough talent around him. I loved Mark Bulger. But in that instance, I didn't see Gabriel play. Okay. I only saw Gabriel play when I'm 8 years old and it's the end of his career and the end of his run with the Rams. So when I see Matthew Stafford and he's playing, I don't worry about those games. So this team is exceptional. So they're always in it. They're always in the hunt and such. And so this is a deep roster. I know I went longer on that, Neil, than I probably should have, but I just wanted to get that out there. Micah Gutierrez, I assume Rivers and Hunter will get most of the snaps in the preseason, but I hope we see some good minutes for Corum versus the Cowboys or Chargers. I wouldn't count on it, man. I really wouldn't count on those minutes for Corum. I mean, it could happen, but I wouldn't count on it. I do think you're right. Jarquez Hunter and Ronnie Rivers are going to get the bulk of those snaps, and then you're going to see, I think, Cody Schrader, Jordan Waters. There are a couple of guys that are still on that roster. I was very high on Cody Schrader because the Rams kept him around all last year after signing him off the 49ers practice squad. So that is something to keep an eye on there, but let's move on. ESG, the way the media talks about the 49ers, you would think they're in the East. Yeah, they love the 49ers, and they do. They absolutely love the 49ers. And in fact, I got a comment here about that in around the NFL and other places. If you allow me to drift there real quick, ESG, I'm just kind of curious. How do you talk about concerns about the Rams' offensive line, but not bring up the same concerns about the 49ers line, which has more questions and is older? How do you not do that, right? See Danny Parkins, the guy with the teeth problem, subbing in for Colin Cowherd, who I kind of like, but why would you say I got real questions about the injuries on the Rams offensive line? And dude, did you do any homework? And I know there are 32 teams to cover, but this is your full-time job. And you can say there are other sports you have to watch, but not really. Really, the only thing you have to do is watch the NFL and laugh at the WNBA, right? That's all you got to do, right? Pick up a little baseball here and there. How can you not know that Alaric Jackson's back on the field, right? How can you not know about Havenstein? How can you not know about the interior of this offensive line? And yet you don't bring up the 49ers? You don't bring up the 49ers? Trent Williams, okay, but he's ancient of days. Brent Barch right now is slated to be their starting left guard. He played 65 snaps. Jake Brendel is maybe a tick above Coleman Shelton, maybe not. He's 33. And then you got Colton McKivitz at right tackle, who's all right, but he's a couple of grades behind an 11-year veteran in Rob Havenstein. But you bring up the Rams offensive line? I don't get it. So it is like the 49ers are in the East because they give them every benefit of the doubt that you can imagine. Drives me crazy. Neil Gonzalez, you are welcome. I'm glad you made the show. Gilbert Gonzalez, if Jimmy has to play half this year, play half the year, could the Rams be 5-4 or best case 6-3? Great for Matthew to take over fresh, ready to go in the playoffs. You know, my only fear about Jimmy G starting more than 4 or 5 games is he's had a history of going down with injury. And then you get into that murky water of Stetson Bennett. All right. Could be murky water there. I got a feeling there's going to be at some point before his run with the Rams is over, Bennett's going to play and he's going to have a John Wolford moment. That week 18 moment John Wolford had where he led the Rams in a victory over the Cardinals, got the Rams in the playoffs, and was going to start and did start the next week in the game in 2020 against the Seahawks. He got hurt and Goff came in. And give credit to Goff. His thumb was banged up, but he went into the game and he finished his career with the Rams the next week with the Packers. But I think Stetson Bennett's more talented than Wolford. But I do have a feeling that we're going to have a Stetson Bennett moment because the Rams see something in him, and you got to give a little bit of trust to McSnead. Yeah, I think again. I got crazy on it last on Monday. Is you gotta set this up to where if the Rams are blowing somebody out or getting blown out in the fourth quarter, please send Matthew Stafford to the bench. If you can't give him a game off, then make up that game by giving him the fourth quarter off 4 times, right? And run Jimmy G. And if you don't want to run Jimmy, well, you have to, I guess, the way it's all set up. Bennett would only play if there's an emergency, but you just bring Jimmy G to hand the ball off to somebody, right? I think I'm all for rest for Stafford. Stafford's not in this trying to make sure he throws his 7,000th touchdown pass. He's in this for the bling, right? He's in it for the bling. All right, let's see here. Good question, though, Gilbert. Tim Burns, they put the Rams schedule through AI and have them at 12-5. Are you serious? I did not see that. I didn't see that. Wow, they have the Rams at 12-5. They must be watching RamView. Artificial intelligence must be watching RamView. There we go. Tim Burns, let's see, ESG. Yeah, the 49ers are patching up their holes with Band-Aids. Yeah, I totally agree. Tim Burns, y'all sleeping on Jimmy G. I like Jimmy G. I like him the same way I like Ahkello Witherspoon. Small sips, not big guzzles, right? Small sips. I think it's exciting that it's not Blake Bortles. It's not, was it Brandon Allen? It's not John Wolford. It's, wow, it's Jimmy G, who's been to a Super Bowl. And, who looks a lot better in a Ram uniform than 49er gold and red. Let's see, Mike Gutierrez. No doubt Bennett wants to top his game-winning drive versus Dallas last year, especially considering he threw 4 picks. Hey, what I'd like for them to do with Bennett is just go out there, let him throw 60 times in the preseason, right? Don't even play dress or win. Dress or win, just the fact that he gets the phone call, right, and gets to come in every August. He takes a leave of absence from his stock trading job or whatever he does. He says, oh, yeah, I got the call. All right, cool. I'm going back to the Rams for a month. If you get a paycheck, going to log some time, maybe throw a couple of passes in the preseason, and he's got great stories, right? I used to tell people when I realized I wasn't an NFL athlete or any kind of a professional athlete, I couldn't imagine a cooler job than being the third-string quarterback, right? You're dressed, you got a cap on, and you're holding a clipboard. And you hung around the NFL for 10 years, you get a pension, and you never get banged up. And what a great job. And then if you can talk or share or relate, you're viewed as an expert. Maybe you get a coaching job afterwards. That's the way to do it, right? That's the way to do it. Gilbert Gonzalez, Jimmy has had a year to heal up, not all banged up. I agree. I totally agree. Tim Burns, I have zero issues handing Jimmy G the ball for a month, right? Yeah, right. I have no problem with it. If the Rams are going to get off to their usual slow start, they're going to start the season 1-3. Let Jimmy G take all the beatings until everybody gets in gear, right? That's a great question to throw out there. We know McVay's not going to change what he does, but have we not noticed that we do have a tendency to get off to these slow starts? We, the Royal we do have a tendency to get off to these slow starts at the start of the season. And then we have to pick up all that steam to finish strong. Like I said last year was the least enjoyment I've ever had in an extremely successful season, right? There just weren't enough blowouts, right? There just weren't enough blowouts to let us relax. All right, guys, thank you so much for signing on. I got 22 live right now. It is football season, right? We get live football tomorrow, right? We get football tomorrow, so we're excited about that. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I know sometimes a lot of you guys have already subscribed. You hit it a second time, and my numbers drop, and I'm thinking, oh, man, I suck. But someone told me not to worry about it, so I won't worry about it. Okay, around the NFL and other places as well, Bengals released running back Zach Moss, who broke his neck last year. And it turned out there was some report that said it was broken in 3 places. Zach Moss had his cup of coffee. Zach Moss had his moment. I think he might played long enough to qualify for his pension, more than 3 seasons. C'est la vie, man, and go enjoy the rest of your life, right? Go enjoy the rest of your life. Staying in the AFC, Titans pull Traylon Burks, wide receiver, back from waivers and stick him on the injured reserve. They're expecting an injury settlement to be reached, and he'll be cut. Browns cornerback Martin Emerson, a 3rd-round pick a few years ago out of Mississippi State. I don't We've never seen him play recently with the Browns, but I do know the name because when you're going through all the draft things, those certain names pop out. Tore his Achilles and is done for the season. That's a bummer. Got good news if you're not a Frisco fan. Former San Francisco wide receiver Danny Gray, a third-round pick, 105th overall in 2022, who has only played a few games in 2022, was waived by the Philadelphia Eagles today. His career is hanging by a thread. That is one of my favorite things to talk about. The 49ers, I shared this a couple months ago. 49ers have had 13 top 100 picks since 2020, and they've only hit on 2 of them, Dominic Puny and Brandon Ayuk. And the jury is still out on Ricky Pearsall. All the rest, including Danny Gray, including Jake Moody, bust city, right? Bust city. I'm telling you, in the long run, the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch group up there in Frisco is a blessing to the Rams, and they should be on Kroenke's payroll. There we go. Ravens lost tight end Isaiah Likely to a broken bone in his foot. He's going to miss 6 weeks. They really need him. But I get the feeling that if he doesn't really respond and come back when the Ravens fade in December, we're going to hear how there's just not enough talent again around Lamar Jackson. Saints, think about this. The Saints are really selling tickets to fans with the anticipation, with the excitement of Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, and Tyler Shugg competing for the starting quarterback spot. I mean, I know the Saints have had some tough years, and they probably still have some fans around that wore bags over their heads in the early 80s. But trying to sell Jake Haener, Tyler Shugg, and Spencer Rattler to your fan base, I mean, this is the fan base of Archie Manning, and more importantly right now, this is the fan base of Drew Brees, right? And you're trying to do those guys. I would have tried to bring back Jameis Winston before I looked at any of those guys. Maybe Tyler Shugg in another year or so. But that Saints quarterback room makes the quarterback room of Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, and Jameis Winston look positively Pro Bowl-ish, right? Positively Pro Bowl-ish compared to that Saints locker room. Brutal. All right, let's see. Tim Burns, loving football. Steve Ramirez, I think the slow starts the past 2 years are mainly due to injuries. Yeah, that was a MASH game against Detroit last year, right? Everyone was going down. I'm going to lean with you, Mr. Ramirez. ESG, the curse of Eddie DiPartola. That guy had it going on, right? I don't even know what to say in that regard. I never hated the 49ers in the 80s because Joe Montana was so much fun to watch. And I had better expectations. I was a smarter football fan. I was starting to break into sports writing and everything. So I got a little smarter. So you knew the Rams were outgunned every time they went there. There was that brief blip of hope in the Jim Everett era, right? But you're going into Candlestick with Dieter Brock. You're going into Candlestick with a fading Vince Ferragamo. You're going into Candlestick with Jeff Kemp. You're going into Candlestick. I don't think Bartkowski made it there, but this is what the Rams were doing, right? This is what the Rams were doing. Burt Jones, I don't think he made it to that game, but this is what they were doing. Dante Pastorini. I mean, it was just, you just understood what it was. Unlike the 70s when I actually believed they could get to the Super Bowl with Pat Hayden. Yeah, right? I appreciate that organization in the 80s. Yeah, Eddie DiPartola just was great. He was fantastic. Mikey Gutierrez, Devontae Adams just described himself as a proud dad watching Kanata Mumpfield in practice today. Ooh, I've got some stuff there on that, a little bit. But yeah, Mumpfield is showing out. He's wearing number 15. For a second, I thought I was watching Demarcus Robinson, but he's showing out. And think about that. The 49ers had to sign Quintez Cephas, and they put him in the street to sign Eli Apple. And they've got Demarcus Robinson. They're picking up all these leftovers, right? Trey Lance is slated to start for the Chargers tomorrow. That's going to be fun. I want to see how this kid does. Does he have a shot, right? What he should be doing is begging for a chance in the UFL. He needs reps. He should be playing in the UFL. He should have been there 2 years ago, and he's not. And then the interesting one that follows him is former Clemson, former Oregon State, and is it Florida State? Where did DJ Ugalele go after Oregon State? Was it Florida State? Was it Florida? Where did he go? But remember when he was huge? He was a 5-star guy. He was going to be a stud. And the only place that it really kind of shined for him a little bit there was with Jonathan Smith and Oregon State. And so Ugalele is slated to play, I think, the second half. He's the replacement for Trey Lance. And so that game's interesting to me, you know. And I know about the Hall of Fame game. A lot of the KBM types will whine that they don't care. And for some of them, it's just an act because they got to sound cool. For others, it's a demonstration of their laziness. If you follow football, if you work football, you're going to watch the first football game of the new season. And I go back to this. You don't have to watch the UFL or any of the minor league stuff. But when there's an NFL game on, preseason or regular season, there's always something to learn. There's always something to pick up on, whether it's personnel, individual players, or just something that the analyst is talking about. So it is like going to the classroom. I love the Hall of Fame game. I love all preseason games. And so I'm looking forward to that. My only problem with the Hall of Fame game is it's usually a week or more until you get the next one. So, but the Chargers are playing the Lions. That should be exciting. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Gilbert Gonzalez, Joe, you need to write a book now on how the Ram quarterback world turns. All the washed-up quarterbacks of the 70s came to the Rams 5 years too late. Let me ask you this, Gilbert. The one question I brought up last episode was, can I write an alternate history of where the Rams get Burt Jones in the mid 70s? That somehow, you know, Robert Irsay really screws up worse than Dan Devine, and he gives the Rams Burt Jones, and Burt Jones is the Rams quarterback through the 70s. Steve Ramirez says Rams go to 5 Super Bowls. I don't know if it's 5, but the history would be so different. Can I write that alternate history? And would you guys guarantee to read it? It would be short. It would probably just be an ebook form, but let me know. But yeah, there is some fun stuff there when you think of all the broke down quarterbacks. Now we got a year out of John Hadle. Even James Harris, who played well and I thought got shortchanged. James Harris was a refugee from Buffalo, right? Pat Hayden, we know what Pat Hayden was. He was a refugee from the WFL and a 7th round pick, I think. And then you had Joe Namath, right? You had Jeff Rutledge. You had Bob Lee. They brought in Bob Lee. They brought in Dante Pastorini. They brought in, of course, Burt Jones. They brought in Steve Bartkowski. They brought in Steve Dills, who seems pretty special there when he was at Stanford. And yeah, it just never worked out. And then they got guys in like Chuck Long, who had been a 1st-round pick. They got in Mark Herman, who was a 4-year starter. Now, these guys never played significant snaps, but they were big wheels in college. So that would be a fun story to talk about. But I want to write the alternate history one with Burt Jones coming to the Rams. That would be kind of cool. All right, we talked about the NFC West. The signing of Eli Apple led to the 49ers cutting former Rams practice squad player Quintez Cephas. So we'll keep moving on from there. Let's look at the Seahawks. They have extended their general manager, John Schneider. He is signed through 2031. And I brought this up at the same time I did that story on how NFC West teams have done with top 100 picks since 2020. Since 2020, the Seahawks have had 14 top 100 picks. This is under John Schneider. They scored with Charles Cross. They scored with Boye Mafe. They scored with Kenneth Walker. They scored with Abe Lucas. They really scored with Devin Witherspoon, JSN, Derek Hall, Zach Charbonnet. We're holding off on Byron Murphy, but they have 9 hits in 14 swings in the top 100 under John Schneider. That's why the Seahawks are a team. At some point, the Cardinals are going to figure out Kyler Murray's not the guy, but they might miss their window before they do that. The Seahawks, we're going to find out about Monty Osifort as the Cardinals GM. He's done a really good job so far, but Schneider is tried and true. In fact, if Snead left the Rams, I think you might want a John Schneider as your GM. He's really good, just underrated because he plays up there in Seattle. The only thing where they're failing is they just don't have that quarterback to punch them over the top. And that's good news for the Rams. But they signed him to an extension through 2031. Real quick here, we'll get to some Ram notes. Tim Burns, do the book on the drought between quarterbacks between Bulger and Goff. There you go. Neil Gonzalez, if we draft Archie, is it possible the Rams can have a dynasty? Go Rams. Yeah, the dynasty aspect of it, man, that's really hard. I think all the pieces are in place, but you don't have Stafford at age 27. You have Stafford at age 37. And then you've got to get a quarterback who thinks differently, like Brady, who never took the big money, right? He never took the big money to make sure parts and pieces could be around him. I think the Rams have better talent evaluators than the Patriots did. But that was a 20-year run. The 49ers had a kind of a bookended run, right? You can start with the catch in 81, and then you can start with the catch 2, which was Terrell Owens' grab, was at 98, 97 against the Packers in that playoff game. It's kind of bookend there. That was a 17-year run before Jeff Garcia really took over the franchise. Not that he was bad, but everything was changing up there after that. But yeah, those runs are hard to come by. They're really hard. All the Rams pieces are there, and such. Can you get an Arch Manning? I don't know. And again, the guy hasn't even thrown 100 passes. We don't even know what he's going to look like, right? But whatever it is, going back to Kevin Dotson's statement at the top of the show, don't you just feel amazing confidence with this Ram franchise? We just do. Absolutely. All right, let's keep moving here, looking at some quick Ram notes as we come down to the stretch run of the show. Quick Ram notes. Rams were not this came up. I saw somewhere Rams were not a drive away from beating the Eagles. That was what someone said. I don't know if McVay said. I don't know who said it. And I agree. As the pundit put it, the Rams were not a drive away from beating the Eagles. I agree. The Rams weren't a drive away from beating the Eagles in the playoffs. They were 13 yards away. 13 yards away from beating the Eagles, and I'm not moving off of that. Sorry. I don't care if Sean McVay steps into the RamCave. I'm not moving off of that. They were 13 yards away from beating the Eagles. You watch the film, Stetson Bennett's name came up. Stetson Bennett does look a little bit bigger. He does look a little bit stronger. He does look like he can get blasted in the blind side and still kind of stand and walk away. So that's interesting thing to see when you watch the highlights. I haven't done too much of a dive on Jordan Whittington. And the reason is I'm not anti-Whittington. It's just, wow, you watch him and you tend to agree with what everyone is saying about him. He's a competitor. He plays. This was another guy I believe was 5-star, but his injuries at Texas put him down on the depth chart there with Worthy and Mitchell. Is it Adonai Mitchell? Is that his name? It's with the Colts. So no, the Rams could have something special there in Whittington. And then the other thing, when you watch the Ram video, the one that's circulating around, you see Jimmy G throwing to Puka Nacua. I don't want to see Nacua making diving catches at this time of year. You see Tutu Atwell, awesome sauce. You see Jordan Whittington. Yeah, you saw him. The fourth guy you see is Kanata Muntfield. And all you're hearing, you guys are talking about it, everybody's talking about it, is this guy is not a 7th round pick, right? And that is wild. Could you imagine 2023, Nacua in the 5th round, 2024, Whittington in the 6th, 2025, if he truly is the guy, Kanata Muntfield in the 7th? Man, that's just, yeah. I think the Rams are the new Steelers, right? Steelers always draft and get receivers, and that seems like what the Rams are starting to do. Rams players are just Rams receivers are just better in the locker room, so to speak. There you go. But that is exciting about Kanata Muntfield. Wearing number 15, if you see him in practice, yeah, that's not DeMarcus Robinson or last year's tape. Also, watching him get interviewed, Mike LaFleur, the OC. One, I don't know if it was Mr. Burns or somebody said it, how interesting to see the Rams have their OC and their DC back, right? Because we're always kind of, plundered every offseason, right? But I am curious about Mike LaFleur. His brother's done well, so he's got a good name, right? That's going to help him. If the Rams make a Super Bowl run, let's just say everything goes well and we win the Super Bowl. we've already talked about Shula getting a head coaching job. Someone's going to offer Shula. We know that. But have you ever wondered? You have to wonder if someone out there is going to come to Mike LaFleur with a big fat offer to be an HC, because again, he's off the Sean McVay coaching tree, right? There haven't been too many whiffs off the Sean McVay coaching tree, and you got to wonder if someone would come after him. All right, this date in Rams history, there's not a whole lot.
It was a stone group, my man.
In fact, there's nothing today about tomorrow.
It was a stone group, my man.
Undrafted free agent defensive back Cam Lampkin turns 24 tomorrow. Not much else in history. You know, I do have a book on NFL preseason history. Maybe I'll dig it out and pull out some stuff for Friday. I'm thinking tomorrow I'm going to watch the Hall of Fame game, make some notes, and then I'm going to go on Facebook. I am one of the moderators now on LA Rams of Inglewood, and I think I'll do a live stream there post game, just for about 10 minutes, just to see what it feels like, just to talk about that game on that board, and then I'll download it and I'll load it up onto this site, and then we'll be live also on Friday. Everything is still on track for that. All right, we hit the 51-minute mark. Let's see if we had any more questions come in. Steve Ramirez, 13 yards and 3rd and 2 away. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Absolutely. I still get a little hot on that one. I think that's one I'm going to hold on to for a while. I am going to hold on to that one because that one is very fresh. Very fresh. It's like being stabbed with a Morgul blade. The wound never really heals. Let's see. Gilbert Gonzalez. They were one good play of hitting Higbee for a TD and having a home game versus Washington. So obviously here, guys, that has not healed for any of us. All right, good. I like that. Keeps us bitter. So again, just to cap off the top of the show there, we are open to American Eagle jeans coming on board as a sponsor. Just give us a call. We're open to Tesla giving us a call. We want all the groups that offend people. Get us some Black Rifle coffee. We'll be a platform. We'll develop sponsorships with you. Primacy goes to Kistler Law, but we'll work with you because if it upsets the mob, we're all for it. Kevin Dotson gave a great quote on why it's great to be a Ram. That's awesome. Sean McVay shows how you can say nothing with 97 words. Rams injuries are not that big of a deal, nothing to worry about yet. And then we talked training camp and other stuff there. So check out the show. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, share, and check us out on our podcasts. And be sure to buy a book. Buy a book. It really, really helps us. Okay. Anything else there? Let's see. I hope the Rams feel as mad as I do when they go up against the Eagles. That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I was going to ask Bill, who's from Philly. He's not with us tonight. He lives in Philly. I'd love to hear what he's doing. Get Coldplay on board. Get Cold. I'm going to get a picture of Tim Burns and Steeler fan Rob all embraced with each other. And we'll put it on the board here. There we go. Okay, guys, I got to go. We hit the 50-minute mark. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging with me. Do appreciate all your kind words. Tribe, Tim, Micah, Gilbert, Neil, ESG, Steve, Mr. Powers, all you guys. You guys make it real special to be here. And when you say great show, it's because you guys are congratulating yourselves as well. We have a unique format that I don't see in a lot of other places. Maybe they are, but not like RamView. God bless, guys. We'll see you soon.